I'm going to quickly go back to Yvette and John. What are you taking away from what you've heard tonight?
I want to thank everybody for the comments you've shared tonight. I'm taking a lot away from this, and I think there's a number of themes that have been emphasized for me. That diaspora is not an all-encompassing term, and we need to enter into our relationships recognizing that the partnerships that we develop are going to be unique, and that we need to take those into account in any of the work that we do. And that the other thing, I think, for me that's been emphasized tonight is the role that we can play in terms of public engagement here in Canada. So what is some of the work that we can do to build understanding and awareness within the public here to support some of the efforts and some of the challenges that have been outlined in order to get some of those policies in place that are much needed. Thank you for the opportunity that you've allowed me to be here, and thank you to the organizers for this wonderful dialogue, and I look forward to continuing these kinds of dialogues with the communities that we'll be working with.
Thank you very much, Yvette, and thank you to CUSO VSO for being such a wonderful community partner. John Monahan.
Thanks, Joanna. I'd like to echo what Yvette has said in thanking you for the opportunity to be here and to hear your great ideas and to sense your passion. To the gentleman over there, I think you meant me when you suggested that I was from Ottawa, and I just want to make clear I'm not from Ottawa, and I don't work for the government, and I don't have a pension. So that's my proof. Anyway.
It makes you more sympathetic.
Makes me more sympathetic. I just wanted to say that I don't think that diaspora is the question. I think that diaspora is the answer. I think that the question is, how can Canada's contribution to international development be more effective? And I think that by tapping the potential of all Canadians, including those with special expertise that comes from being transnational residents of Canada, whether citizens or landed immigrants or refugee claimants or whatever your legal status, I think is actually kind of irrelevant to improving the quality of Canada's contribution to international development. I think that it is in the public interest that as many voices be heard and included and interwoven into the decisions that are made in Ottawa and acted upon around the world. And I think that that's the lesson that I'm taking away from tonight, that diaspora is not the question, it's the answer. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much, John. And then back to James Busumtwi-Sam for just a closing observation. I mean, your job was to weave it all together, to sort of bring it together for us at the end of this full year, really, of coming together in these kinds of meetings.
Thank you
no
very
pressure
much
at
for
all.
giving me such an easy task. Well, a number of very interesting thoughts and comments have been made, and I just want to highlight a few, just as we go away. And what struck me from many of the comments that came out is there's recognition that many diasporic individuals and groups are not waiting for government, but there's also a sense of frustration based on the realization that diaspora can only contribute effectively to development if they themselves are realizing their potential here. And the sense of frustration is that certain policies and structures in the Canadian society, particularly this practice of credentialism, whereby if you have a credential from certain parts of the world, it's not recognized. So you have members of diaspora here in Canada who have PhDs, who are doctors, engineers, and so on, who simply can't get those credentials recognized. So this, I think, came up very, very strongly. So I think the key point here, and I think it's absolutely true, this is what I was talking about in terms of agency. That agency can only flourish if it has supporting social structures. And the existing structures, particularly in terms of how we do or do not recognize foreign degrees and qualifications, I think is the single most, if I had to single one factor out, is the single greatest stumbling block to realizing that potential of the diaspora. And it's not simply the problem of government. There are, the way the system works, you have various professional associations who safeguard, and who are charged with accreditation and safeguarding professions and so on, who are very much complicit in this process of not recognizing foreign credentials. How we go about changing that, that's a separate question, but that's something I want to leave you with in terms of what came out. Another major issue that came up that I think is worthy of thought, which got me thinking, is the issue of mistrust and fear held by many diaspora in terms of the opposition candidates. It's a comment which you made and several others made. And it's not something that I actually thought about, but I think it's important. It's related to the point I made earlier. How do we overcome that mistrust and fear? What do we need to do, both as members of the diaspora, in terms of engaging the Canadian public and engaging the Canadian government? Also, another very important finding is that in thinking of the diaspora, we must be inclusive, that the whole development enterprise is not just about the diaspora, it's also about including Canadians, the wider Canadian public. But I also sense a sense of frustration that many of the things, the initiatives diaspora are doing simply isn't known. So a major challenge is how do we get that information out? And the suggestion that John made was one possible solution is to create some sort of umbrella organization whereby, and you mentioned your research in terms of trying to obtain that information. I think that is a useful step, and I can say that we at SFU, through this project, are also going to be trying to help in terms of getting that information out, because I think it's very, very important that these initiatives are already there. How do we educate the public and the government and therefore build support? So I'll end there as some of the key points I think came out from the discussion. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you all very much, Yvette, John, thank you so much for being here, for all of you being here, and James for your comments.